Man, I can really go for some Phoenix right now. Oh well, here's Danganronpa. It's close enough.
Danganronpa.
Danganronpa is a murder mystery visual novel brought to us by Spike Chunsoft. For a visual novel, it's been doing pretty well for itself, earning a nice fan base, sequel, and a few adaptations. But does it deserve it? If I had to answer, yes, Danganronpa is something worth your time. Normally I'd explain why by briefly recapping the plot or something of that sort, but I can't talk too much for fear of spoiling the game and pissing off the internet, so we'll settle for the premise. We're stuck in control of Makoto Negi, a character whose only defining feature is his complete and utter averageness. Makoto wins a lottery allowing him to go to a school for the gifted, and it's around here where things start to go wrong. In the span of about 5 minutes, Makoto is knocked out, the entire school is blocked off, he meets his classmates, and finds out the only way to get out of the school is to kill one of them. There's a catch, though. There will be a trial for the murderer, and if the killer gets found out in the trial, then they themselves will be the ones killed. So it's a contest to see who can commit a perfect crime and get away with it to get out scot-free, huh? Sure, I can get behind that. Actually, to the story's credit, unlike most stories like this, everyone doesn't immediately turn into a psychopath when things start going wrong. The characters actually react rather believably, and it isn't until some good incentive is presented that any killing actually starts. This is probably one of Danganronpa's best qualities. Characters. When you get right down to it, every character is really just a cliche of some kind. You got the jock, the punk, the pretty girl, the rich kid, the nerdy girl, and so forth. But the characters are written in a nice, over-the-top way and balanced enough that I find them believable and even likable. Special mention goes to Monokuma, who acts as the game master and somehow manages to be both incredibly adorable and completely terrifying. Also noteworthy is Celis because I like Celis, alright? Sue me. The only character I really disliked out of the whole bunch was Fukawa, and honestly, the less said there, the better. Moving on. While we're being negative, let's talk about the actual mystery part of this game. Danganronpa is enjoyable, even a lot of fun, but it is really easy. The game holds your hand the entire way and practically force-feeds you answers to each of the puzzles. Even on the highest difficulty, odds are you'll never once see the game over screen. But while it is pitifully easy, Danganronpa is still fun to play. Danganronpa's gameplay is divided into two main styles. The first is a glorified chat box, where you'll run around as Makoto and try to build up your relationships with the other characters in exchange for abilities you can make this easy game even easier with. Aside from giving us more info on the characters and their backstories, this part of the game is really just a filler for what we're here for, the trials. Once the crowd happens, it's up to Makoto to gather all the clues before the trial starts. And once the trial starts, things quickly turn into a huge array of over-the-top actions and crazy antics, which sounds a lot like a certain game, doesn't it? Yeah, this is pretty much the Phoenix Wright formula, but there's quick time events. Yeah, the trials are almost entirely quick time events, and while this may not sound like the greatest idea in the world, in fact, let's face it, it sounds like shit. It actually works surprisingly well. Because the puzzles in the game are so straightforward, time limits placed on you during the quick time event trials are really the only things that add any challenge and tension. But it's never an issue since you have more than enough time to trial and error your way through every single puzzle in the game. Instead of the standard Phoenix Wright style of gameplay featuring a bunch of finding mistakes and arguments, presenting evidence, the trials introduce several different gameplay styles depending on whatever's happening at that given moment. The main aspect of the trials is the non-stop debate, which is exactly what it sounds like. Everyone's debating, and it's up to you to figure out either who's lying or who's wrong and present evidence to back it up. Once again, just like Phoenix Wright. Though to be fair, from here on out, the trials get pretty original. Every once in a while, Makoto has to have an epiphany diagram, where you play hangman for a few minutes until he figures out something you yourself figured out a long time ago. Towards the end of the trial, you also get to have, and I'm not making this up, Machine Gun Battle Talk, which is a rhythm game where you debate with other people in the trial. Lastly, there's Climax Logic, where you as Makoto sit down and lay out every step of the crime from start to finish and figure it all out. On their own, none of these are too much trouble, and to be fair, they do a great job of shaking things up and keeping it interesting and not too boring. It just would be nice if there was some actual challenge anywhere here. I know I keep focusing on how straightforward the mysteries are, but I will give the game credit with the final trial. I won't spoil it, but it went a lot further than I thought it did, and it was really the only trial in the game to actually surprise me. Even if I knew everything beforehand though, Danganronpa was fun enough for the trials alone and the executions that inevitably came after it. You heard me right, executions. If you catch the killer, your reward is to watch them die in a highly imaginative and twisted execution. It really is something to watch, and words can't really do it justice. Check it out and see what I mean. Sadly, I can't say the same about the rest of the game's visuals. They aren't bad, just bland. not really much I can say there. Same can be said of the soundtrack. Like the visuals, the game reserves all the best songs for the trials, with everything else there just to help fill the gaps. Really, that probably best summarizes Danganronpa, trials with some filler in between them. Granted, there's a lot of story that happens in the filler bits and it's not really bad. It just can't hold a candle to calling someone out on murder to the rhythm of a fast-paced techno song. And if that's wrong, then I sure as hell don't want to be right. Still, the plot isn't bad at all, it just takes a backseat to why we're really here. Actually, speaking of the plot, I do have one major gripe here. As a mystery game, Danganronpa exists to raise and answer questions, and it does this pretty well. Except for one really important question. How? How on earth does anything in this game end up happening? How is our big bad guy capable of doing this? How did things get like this? These are all questions brought up but never answered, and it honestly feels a bit frustrating because otherwise Danganronpa ties itself up very nicely. Not answering how any of this was possible just feels lazy, and if this gets covered out in the sequel, that's nice, but for the original game, it's pretty damn annoying. Really though, that's a minor nitpick in the grand scheme of things. Because in the end, despite me making fun of it and criticizing it a lot, I had a lot of fun playing this, and that's really all I can ask for. It's far from perfect, but Danganronpa is good enough I can say it's worth checking out. See you guys next time.